everyone, welcome back to yet another podcast episode of Insights by OutsightX, the one-stop shop podcast about everything from the first batch of IPM at DoMS Nalsar. Now today with us, I have Miss Amrutha Pavana Devisetty. Now to give you a bit more brief about her, she's a Carnatic vocalist, she's a Kuchipudi dancer as well, and she is very passionate about women empowerment, gender equality and social welfare. Now in this case, worked out very well for her because the first internship that you ended up doing after coming here was in that segment as well.
Yes.
So welcome to the podcast, first of all.
Thank you.
Alright, so we're going to be asking a couple of questions about your experiences with the NGO that you worked with and the work that you did there. So if you wanted to introduce the NGO that you worked with to the wider audience, how would you put it?
Okay, so I interned at Tharuni.
Yeah.
So Tharuni is situated in Hyderabad. They have an office in Lagdi Kapur. So their focus area is entirely women and children. So they work towards upliftment of women and children. They work towards providing them a better life, a better chance at resources and opportunity.
Right.
So it is run by Mrs. Mamatha
Right.
and she is an amazing woman, and I feel very lucky to have interned with her, interned at her organization. So yeah, that's pretty much.
Alright, so I mean, as far as I've gathered from our conversation up till now about Tharuni and your internship there, you have worked on a project that was very directly linked with the Telangana State Police Force,
Right.
and you directly reported to the very top person in the organization. Now your work inherently was a lot about the literature review portion as well, figuring out the back end of the organization while they go on and do future projects. That would include, from their inception, what the work they've done, what their organizational structure is, what and how, more importantly, they're trying to change the social fabric of the place they're trying to work in.
Right.
So in this case, why don't you give a more brief about the work that you ended up doing at Tharuni?
Okay. So my work entirely revolved around tracking what Tharuni has been doing since its inception. So it was established in the year 2000. So from the year 2000 till 2021, they were very vocal in helping a lot of women, especially girls in their teenage years, get a better chance at life. It's quite saddening to know that even after 75 years of independence, there are still many social evils that we still have to fight against. And in Telangana, child marriage is very prevalent in some parts of Telangana. So Tharuni has been instrumental in helping curb these child marriages. And the thing about social work is that it never ends there. Once you put an end to it, it's not over. It can be still continued. So the best part about Tharuni as an organization is that they've stopped a lot of child marriages, and at the same time they've given the girl a chance at reliving her life with better resources and opportunities. They've helped her rebuild her life from scratch, because many a times the families are not accepting, because it is considered as a social evil. It isn't social evil because you are in a way excluded from society once you go through this. So Tharuni has been very, very instrumental in helping these women rebuild their lives and actually be very happy at this point of time.
Right.
So my journey at Tharuni was very inspiring, because I've had an opportunity to actually learn about what they do, and I've had to make a lot of PPTs about the work that they're engaged in from their inception to this date.
Right.
And it was quite saddening, because there have been many events that they had to intervene and put an end for. But I am actually very glad to know that there is at least some organization that is working towards putting an end to these things. So yeah, that's been my work here at Tharuni.
A lot of these cases as well, spreading awareness, giving them an alternate funnel to work with, or giving them a different life altogether than the one they're living right now is very important.
It is.
And even in this place, you have NGOs working with these people at the grassroots level, but a lot of the times the people don't figure this part out, that the NGOs in themselves are organizations.
Yeah.
Now for an organization to function, there has been a history and everything has to work, but that's fine. Every day that you work, there has to be something backlinking to, let's say, a 75-year independence history that can give you a context on how to work today. Now your work focused a lot about the historical part in this case as well, because you had to analyze data, figure out what has happened since their inception, including their ideologies, the way they work, the people they work with, and things like that. So So why don't you throw more light on this part of the process of a literacy review, figuring out parts and reporting to officers?
Sure. So Tharuni, there are, let's say, 6 things that they work towards. First would be female infanticide, child marriage, child labor, human trafficking, domestic abuse.
Right.
So Tharuni is the technical partner of the Telangana Police, the women wing of the Telangana Police Force. So I still remember when I first entered the office. So when I was interning, they were then functioning from the women's safety wing office of the police force.
Right.
So I was actually waiting to meet with Mamatha ma'am, and then I see a female IPS officer stepping out of a black Scorpio, and you have so many people just reaching for her, making her life easy. It was very inspiring to see a woman of such stature and a woman so composed and so proud of her achievement, just walking towards making a change every day. So the whole process was very inspiring. I visited the office, I think, for the first time for a couple of hours. I was there for 2-3 hours, and I was shown around. And Tharuni's office is situated very close to the anti-human trafficking unit of the women's safety wing. And you see so many people working towards putting an end to all this. There are so many people engaged and so many initiatives taken up by Tharuni as well. So Tharuni is, like I've mentioned, the technical partner for the women's safety wing, and they have something called Balika Sanghas in the rural areas. So they have officers that are assigned to go around and see if any of these things are being practiced and to protect, to rescue the child. So I've read through a couple of cases. For example, there was this one girl that was rescued by Tharuni in 2011. By the time they reached the location, she was already married to a 45-year-old man, and she was 11 years old. And by then, they could not do much about it, but they still did. They tried to convince the family, they sensitized the family, they separated the couple. But then after, I think, a couple of times, the girl returned to her family, and the family forced her to go back to her husband. And then few years later, Tharuni, by chance, she met Mamatha ma'am, and then when she met her, they've realized that the situation is not all better, and she was already a victim of domestic abuse by then. So when they met her again in 2019, I think, they helped her. They helped her enter into a vocational course, vocational training. She knew how to sew, so they got her a sewing machine, and they helped her rebuild her life from scratch. And now she is a mother of a 5-year-old, separated from the man who's troubled her, and she's living her life quite happily. So there were so many instances like this that I read through, and there is another thing called Bharosa. It's a new initiative that is taken up by Tharuni in association with the Women's Safety Wing. So this is like a one-stop support solution for women and children for all of their problems. And I think they are also entering into taking care and welfare of transgenders, because we have a lot of sections that are still very biased against. So Tharuni, I think the best part about working at this NGO is there's always growth. They are always expanding. They're always looking for more sections of people to protect and to rescue and to save and help. So this was my work actually. All throughout this journey, it was very fulfilling because there was so much that I could learn just by tracking how they've grown from their inception to this date, and they are constantly at work. Mamatha ma'am herself, she tours very regularly to different places to see how the women there are in general, to ensure that they are well and good.
Alright, why don't we go to a little more informal part of a segment where we're going to be playing sort of an interactive game. Right? I'm going to be asking you a couple of questions. I think 2 or 3 will be due. And we're going to ask you a couple of parts where, let's say, a limited answer to a phrase or a word that makes it a little more interesting for us. Alright, so what comes to your mind the moment I say the word Tharuni?
Tharuni, I think women empowerment.
Right. What's the one word you would encapsulate your entire experience with Tharuni?
It was very fulfilling.
Right. And in this case, what would you categorize your work at Tharuni as?
I think it was helpful because As an intern, I think that's pretty much what I expected.
Right.
To be doing a couple of PPTs and everything. But in my case, it was very learning for me as well. I've gained a lot of knowledge, so I think it was helpful.
So even in this case, having a different complete work environment given to you, trying to persevere in a place that you are not completely privy to in this case beforehand, is extremely a mammoth task to undertake as well. And that too in your first year after the first year of your college as well.
Yes.
So I can assume that there would be a lot of instances where you would have had a major breakthrough or a major takeaway from this case. So what are your top takeaways from your NGO internship at Tharuni?
Alright. So I think the most major takeaway from my internship at Tharuni would be that internship has always had this image. Internship always refers to doing a lot of labor, not getting pay, be it in a corporate setting. But I didn't know what to expect interning at an NGO, because this is my first time associating with an NGO formally, officially.
Right.
And we've all heard about NGOs, we've all heard about organizations, but we never know what they really do. We just know what they work for, but we don't know the work that goes behind.
Right.
So I think the most important takeaway for me would be is that I think I've learned to be open to experiences, because now that we go for different internships, I know that I've experienced something very new. So I like not having something to expect, because the next time we might go towards a startup or a corporate sector, and the NGO thing was so fulfilling. So I think it's very nice to know that you don't know what to expect. There's always that fun element towards it.
Right.
And also I think it gave me a real respect towards the work that goes behind. Not a lot of them are aware of what actually happens behind the scenes, right? So I think this was a major takeaway, to be open to experiences, I guess.
Because even in this case, once you start working with them, the transparency that you generally feel towards NGOs increases by a margin.
It does.
Because you are then directly involved in the processes. You can see the pitfalls that are there in the processes, and you can also see what the advantages of working in the setting are as well. So in this case, wrapping up the final experience that you have had, if you wanted to encapsulate your entire experience in a couple of words, what would you put it there?
Like I've mentioned before, it was very empowering. I've always been a very big supporter of women empowerment.
Right.
I'm all for feminism, but to actually be associated with something and to do the groundwork was very, very, very empowering and very inspiring, really. So this was
actually the whole prospect of women empowerment was also extremely intriguing for us as well, which is why we took Raksha Bandhan as our day for recording this podcast series episode as well. Alright, so in this case, wrapping up our final complete episode as well. You have gone to a new location, you've conquered as a student of DoMS Nalsar, and you have figured out the social fabric and how it can affect change via the help of NGOs like that. So congratulations for completing your internship, and thank you for being a part of the podcast here as well.
Thank you for making me a part of the podcast.
You're welcome. Alright, so folks, we will be back very soon with yet another experience, yet another speaker, yet another NGO by the first batch of DoMS Nalsar. Stay tuned for more. This is your host Aish Nigam signing off.